Okay guys, time for another anime rant! Since My Hero Academia was a major player in my descent from casual anime fan to full-on weeb, I just have to talk about this. Midoriya's mom did nothing wrong, and I'm gonna tell you why. Early season 1 spoilers. So you know how Midoriya attempts to save Bakugo and then has this big revelation when All Might tells him he can be a hero? That was a beautiful moment. But if you've noticed, more than once he casts blame on his mother for discouraging him.
Mom, that's not what I needed you to say.
We flash back to that scene in the anime multiple times, antagonizing this poor woman for not lying to Izuku in order to lift his spirits. And I'm gonna tell you why I think that's a load of bullshit. Inko must have been just as devastated by the doctor's diagnosis as Izuku was. Finding out your child is quirkless is like finding out your child in our world is severely disabled in some form or another. Mentally, physically, take your pick. She didn't want her child to endure the hardships of being quirkless, being teased and limited in his aspirations. That's one of the worst things a parent can endure, I imagine, short of losing that child. But I was raised the same way as Midoriya, to be informed of and accepting of my own limitations. My parents were brutally honest with me, that my art probably wouldn't allow me to live in the cushy lifestyle that I was seeking, that I was too delicate and sickly to pursue athletics, and I don't resent them for that. I'm extremely grateful for it. I know if they had just told me things I couldn't do exclusively, then I would have been discouraged. That's how you actually break a child's spirit. But they went about it in a constructive way. They pruned the gifts I actually did have. Put me in math and science tournaments where I won trophies and could feel a place of belonging and value to society, rather than floundering in the unknown, hoping for an outcome that was statistically improbable. Knowing my limitations allowed me to adjust my priorities from a young age. I knew I was going to be a pharmacist from about age 14. And after my loans were paid, I was just gonna go part-time and then do art as a hobby. And here I am, doing exactly that. And I'm really happy. I never had an identity crisis like some of my fellow undergrads did. And I think it's partly because I knew exactly what I was capable of and what kind of challenges I'd be coming up against when I left the nest. The harsh truth of the matter is, the sooner you become aware of the battle you're already fighting, the less likely it is to defeat you. Pretending you don't have any weaknesses isn't inspiring, it's delusional. I'll give you a real life example. I knew a girl in high school whose mother had utterly convinced her that she was the next Kelly Clarkson. And I hate to say it, but she was the worst singer I've ever heard. In real life, like I've seen lots worse on, American Idol compilations and the internet, but I digress. Unfortunately, the students at my school did the same thing as her mother did because they thought it was funny. They would goad her on to sing in chapel and at school events just so they could make fun of how bad she was, which was cruel. I mean, she couldn't even sing an A key, let alone the right key. Guys, I'm not trying to pretend like I'm any great talented singer, but I can carry a tune in a bucket, all right? I've been in All-State. I've been in musicals and some other things, so am I. I ain't trying to throw shade. It's not her fault. But the point is, here's what happened. Senior year of high school, I asked her what she was going to do for a future career, and she told me she was going to Juilliard on a music scholarship. And I was quiet for a minute. Y'all should know by now that I am not the most tactful individual. And I asked her, what's your backup plan? And she actually laughed at me. She said, I don't need a backup plan, silly. I'm going to Juilliard. Guess what? Big surprise! She didn't get into Juilliard. Don't worry, she went into something much more suited to her actual talents. She's extremely personable and organized, so I think she found her true calling now. But the moral of the story is, her mother could have saved her so much time and heartache if she had just been honest with her. With Midoriya, I feel the same way. Think about it. Deluding Midoriya into thinking he can be a hero is extremely dangerous for him. Villain powers are no joke. He would have just basically been Moomin Rider against Boros, but like all the time. So if she had not aligned his young mind with the realities of the world, he would have pursued something that would have literally killed him. You think Shigaraki would have taken pity on a hero just because he's quirkless? No, he would have blasted him into dust Voldemort style just like he would every other person in his opposition. But if we want to get super realistic with it, he wouldn't have even been accepted into a hero course because he wouldn't be able to pass the practical exam. I mean, maybe he could have taken down one or two with the right strategy and tools. He is resourceful, but it wouldn't have been enough to land him among the top scorers. And it definitely wouldn't fly with someone as practical as Aizawa on the board. So Inko wasn't crushing his dreams the way he believed and the way the show seems to repeatedly harp on. She was just opening his eyes to the reality and the way the world works. Even All Might said it was unrealistic. And he was right! He changed his mind later when he saw the heroic heart in Midoriya, which makes him special in his own right, but if All Might never had the capabilities to pass on that power to Midoriya, the results still would have been the same. He wouldn't have been accepted into a hero school. And even if All Might used his influence to change that into his favor, Midoriya would have died by now. Either at the USJ, or Stain, or the Forest, or there are countless times he would have been helpless without his quirk. Like when he went against that guy who killed Waterhorse, forget it, his brain would have been a spreadable cheese topping all up on that mountainside. He didn't stand a chance. One more thing I don't think anybody has brought up is this. Midoriya probably developed his strategy skills because of her honesty. He studied fighting techniques relentlessly to compensate for his physical shortcomings. If he hadn't been made aware of those shortcomings by his mother when he was young, he might not have done that. And on multiple occasions, it's that level of study that gave him a valuable advantage in battle. I've noticed the message this series is trying to convey is, good intent is always right, regardless of any other circumstance. Logic and forethought be damned. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that message. We see it a lot in superhero and fantasy genres. Good guy triumphs over bad guy even if he's an underdog. We love that. It renews our motivation and makes us feel vindicated in our own struggles. But I somehow think My Hero Academia does it to a fault. Aside from the Inko debate, I think this issue becomes even more prominent later. Mild Season 4 spoilers coming up. Skip to this time card to avoid them. This message gets a little more in your face around the time that Night Eye is involved in the story. Now, Night Eye is written to be the perfect foil for All Might in his thinking and mannerisms, and therefore they have some bad blood. Night Eye was always planning ahead and wouldn't make a risky move, and All Might was always going gung-ho into the fray and improvising his way through situations. And he gets away with it because he's All Might. He's so powerful that it just tended to work out for him. But then we meet Overhaul in the alleyway. Midoriya has the instinct to just rush him and rescue Eri, and Mirio, as Night Eye's apprentice, thinks it's right to wait. And they stress so heavily that Midoriya's instinct was correct and that Mirio was super wrong for not jumping into it. And it's been a while since I read it, but if I'm not mistaken, Night Eye even admits that he was wrong and that Midoriya and All Might's way of doing things was right. After his epic planning skills saved all their damn lives. Like, oh, planning was always wrong. Should have just felt the hero inside myself. Ugh, gag me. Now, if that's not what Horikoshi was trying to convey, I apologize. But it came across a little heavy-handed to me. The scene at the end with Night Eye was touching. And I like how his faith in their ability to shape the future for the better was renewed. And I think that's the message he was trying to convey. But in the process, threw the intelligent heroes under the bus for the way they do things. But like I said, I don't want to come across as a pessimist in any way. Do I think you can do just about anything you put your mind to? Absolutely. There are countless inspirational stories about people who overcame their obstacles and achieved their dreams. But overlooking these obstacles entirely is a dangerous way to approach life, and can have a negative effect on your psyche and self-worth later down the road. Which is why I disliked the concept of pitting realism against blind, thoughtless optimism and giving no merit to the realistic side of things. Now for a moment, I'm going to take a step back and play devil's advocate to myself here. There are a few ways Midoriya could have become a hero. If he'd met Hatsume somewhere along his journey, she could have built him some mech thing that could have helped him subdue villains and allowed him to fight low-level crime. Maybe higher-level crime if they got their hands on the quirk-canceling bullets. Also, if he had any sort of poker face, he could have infiltrated the League of Villains as one of their own and won their trust until he got a quirk from All For One, and then just done a heel face turn as a double agent. So there's that. It was technically possible. So if you want to shake your head at Midoriya's mom a little bit, I'm not gonna blame you. But I for one still think she gets too much flack for that one little moment of weakness. Maybe the series is pulling back from that message a bit. I hear it's getting good again. And take my words with a grain of salt because I kind of dumped this series a while back, mostly because the Gentle arc was like pulling teeth. And right when I was like, oh yeah, we're getting some great villain content finally, the manga was like, nah, have another exam. And this time let's focus on the class that doesn't even matter. So that's all of my complaints for My Hero Academia. Sometime in the near future, I will cover all the things I loved about the series because I can't do rants all the time, as fun as they are. So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next week with more Weeb content.